Yeah, debt relief, my butt. Anyway, more liars. Bob, my biosperm donor, was a scammer, and he scammed women. And the FBI had a dossier on him, and they believed he murdered several of the women that he took money from. I have no doubt, and neither to two other men that knew my biosperm donor. One was Dave McGuire, and Bob owed him $35,000, and he thought Bob had murdered some women, and he was about to murder another woman who Bob was living with. Anyway, so knowing that Bob never forgave, and he'd get this look, and this woman has that same look. I mean, just crazed look. And several times we had her here trying to be nice. And one time she wanted to borrow some poles to hold up clothing because they were having a clothing fair in Sandy. And I says, oh, I have some nice clothing. She says, we don't need any more clothes. Please don't put that on me. I just want the poles. I thought, okay. And she insists I had two of the same kind. I says, no, DS, I purchased one of each. There's two mismatched. Well, I think you do. You're just forgetting them. I says, well, go look in my shop for them. So she couldn't find them. And then she threw the two in the back of her truck. And I says, well, do you want some of these clothing? And I says, they're here in this blue bag. Because I put things that I keep in a black bag, and then things that I'm going to give away in a clear bag. And so I had a clear bag that I had purchased from the neighbor. She had a lot of very nice. She works at Costco, and she had some awesome maternity outfits. And one of the gals I know, her daughter-in-law was pregnant, and she wanted me to buy those maternity clothes. So I spent close to $100, and it was like $300 or $400 worth of clothes. And it was this really nice stuff, plus some toys and breastfeeding pillows and stuff like that. And so when I heard that Dora Sue was having this stuff giveaway, I said, well, I have a lot of nice things. And she turned me down. And I says, okay. So I just left her to load up the things and just kind of watch her from afar, because I didn't want to be in her way. Because I know when she's in those kind of moods, you stay away from her, because she will bite your head off. Well, about a couple months later, she returned the things, those two things that hold the lines up. And I couldn't find my clothes, those maternity clothes. I looked everywhere, and I asked my husband, where'd you put them? And I went through the building. We have a big shop, very big shop. And anyway, when DS returned those things, she says, oh, by the way, everybody loved those maternity clothes. They went fast. I went, oh, gosh, you idiot. She tells me she doesn't want anything, but then she grabs the bags that she wanted. So, I mean, she's really stupid. And then we had her washing and helping us clean clothes and do stuff, because I was having some problems with my back. And I wanted to hire this gal, Lisa. She's Filipino. She's awesome, very kind. And I just adore having her around. But I didn't want DS around at all, because she is nasty, always nasty. And now she took all those clothes. I didn't know what to say. And I thought, well, I'm not going to say anything, because it's not going to get the clothes back. And she's just going to make an excuse as, well, you told me to take those. So anyway, $300 or $400 worth of clothes got given away to at the fair. And they probably turned around and showed up being resold, because they were nice stuff. And my friend's daughter never got the clothes. So anyway, and then another time, she was working for the Yellow House thrift store, and I used to give her all my cans. And if you have a big bag of those cans, I've been saving them for several months or half a year, and bottles and stuff like that. And they're about $20 a bag. So I had 2 or 3 bags, which is about $60 worth of cans. And I always gave them to her to help her because they're having financial problems. Well, anyway, I was going to give her those 3 bags. And then I says, well, can you stop at our house on the way to the church? But call me in case my husband takes the stuff, okay? Well, she never called me, and she showed up on the door, and she had that look, that crazy look on her face. And she says, well, I'm in a hurry. Where's the stuff? I says, oh, Larry already took it. She goes, oh, I told you to call me. You had me come all the way over here, out of my way, for nothing. I said, Diaz, I told you to call me. Well, I can't remember everything, and I came all this way, 4 miles out of her way. And she had to act like a damn mean donkey. I couldn't believe it, but I didn't give her the cans. I'd rather throw those in the trash than give them to her. So she never apologized for being nasty. And my husband was church treasurer, and she had to micromanage him every step of the way. Well, did you do this? Did you do that right? Thinking my husband has a PhD in electronics, biomedical electronics and engineering degree. He was Motorola's top systems engineer his whole career. And he's a very smart man, has a really high IQ. And having this biatch second guess him and micromanage him was just horrible. And my husband couldn't keep doing the budget. It cost him, it was 20 hours a week plus driving 10 miles one way and 10 miles back and spending an hour at the bank and doing this, that, and the other. And then having her try to micromanage him. He says, I can't do this anymore. I got to give up. So he turned it over to another person. Well, this other person is doing an awesome job. But her husband is a high up conference man. He's head of all the pastors. So you know what? She's going to have her nose up her butt the whole time. She will never be mean to this other person that took over as treasurer. She will never treat her the way she treated my husband. There's other, for instances, when she was here, she broke Christmas. I got a really cute Christmas kitty ornament for the tree, and I had a bunch of them. And she picked one up and then dropped it right on the granite countertop, and it broke. And she says, oh, instead of saying sorry, she said, you have too many expensive things, and I'm not going to be responsible for breaking any of it because you have too much stuff that's expensive, and I'm not going to be responsible. So I didn't want her cleaning my house. And then the last straw was where we went to church, Hoodview Church. There was my piano teacher, Diane, and her husband, Curtis. And I was taking 2 45-minute lessons a week, and I was paying Diane $100 a week for piano lessons, and I was doing really good. I really enjoyed it, and I was making headway because I was a brand new student. I didn't know how to read music, and I'm still struggling with reading music because I'm older. My brain is older. And her husband started focusing on me and becoming obsessed with me. And part of my sexual abuse when I was 4 and 5 is my 22-year uncle was married and he had 2 kids. He took me in the bathroom and I had to perform oral sex on him. That was traumatizing for me. And then when I was 14 and a half, a man who had a daughter, Christy, that I met at the park swimming pool. He he took a liking to me, but I didn't know it. But anyway, he showed up at my folks' house just as my mom had come back from Sacramento. I had my 2 sisters in the car. I hadn't seen my mom for 2 weeks because she lived in Sacramento, 100 miles away while she went to nursing school. And my 2 sisters lived with the Evans, who did foster care for my sisters for a couple of years. And I was left alone on this horrible place there in Grass Valley. So being left alone traumatized me, having my mom gone all the time, and dealing with the PTSD from being sexually abused for a number of times. My mom blamed me for the sexual abuse. She said I made him horny because I acted too sexy. She told that to a 6-year-old. I was almost 7. My sister Bobby was born in September. And I told my mom this early September as why I kept wetting the bed. And she threatened with my grandmother, Teresa, to tell my teacher that I peed the bed. And they were trying to shame me. And then I told them why I didn't get up in the middle of the night and go to the bathroom is because that's where Howard molested me. And my mom turned it on me. She said it was my fault, that I done wrong. I did something to make him horny. And I acted too sexy. Now, what would a 6.5-year-old? I would be 7 in January, 3 months later. So I was 6 years and 8 months years old, and being told I was too sexy. Wow, what mother would do that? But then, what mother wouldn't protect their daughter? So, I'm not a prude, but to me, oral sex is taboo because of what happened to me. And even the mention of it bothers me. So my piano teacher was here, and her husband said, "Hey, Cheryl, I know what caused Larry's cancer." And I knew immediately what Curtis was going to say. I said, "Curtis, don't you even go there." And as I'm telling him no, he's telling me he's eaten too much pussy. That was my hot button. I flew into rage and I had him leave. And I never took another lesson from Diane again. That was the end. But he became totally obsessed with me and kept coming over, calling me, 22 texts in one day, telling me that he was masturbating to a picture of his wife. And he was laying in bed and had a picture of Diane underneath him and masturbating to it. And I sent this to the detectives there in Gresham, and they threatened to arrest him. But then the shift changed, and then the next cop came on, and the paperwork didn't get carried over, and Curtis kept texting me. And I says, "You know what? I'm going to post these texts on the church Facebook." And that's what I did. And everybody got mad at me. "Why are you doing that? That's not right." And I asked the pastor, "Can you protect us from Curtis? This is wrong. He keeps coming over and yelling at me." I got video after video of him driving up and down our street yelling. And we live on a private street. And I told him, "Stay off of our street." He says, "You can't make me." And then one time he was told if he came over here, he was going to be arrested. Well, Larry left the house, and within 2 minutes, he was here, driving up our driveway, and he backed into our driveway, and he was returning the trailer hitch after we had told him, "No contact, stay off our property." Well, he comes. I was just happened to be sitting in the office, and I had the 357 right there on the, I'm comfortable with guns because I was a sheriff's deputy, and I'm pretty good. I was a pretty good marksman. So that was my service weapon when I was a sheriff's back in the early 70s. That's kind of a big gun. I've got some Walter anyway, with green lasers. But anyway, Curtis started walking to me. I says, "Get off our property." And I pointed the gun at him. And he goes, well, you don't have to be so nasty. I says, I told you, you're not welcome here. Well, he tossed that trailer hitch. Those are about 20 pounds, 15, 20 pounds of heavy metal. It's the trailer hitch to put the trailer on. So he tossed it, and had he tossed that at me, I would have shot him. So I told him, get your ass off our property now. Well, to him, that was game on. So every time we went to church, he would tell me I can't tell him to not come down the street. And then the church elders promised to protect me. And they said they would keep him away from me. But they didn't. Even one of the pastors was listening to Curtis yell at us and challenge us to go outside and fight. And he did nothing. Nobody did anything. So we felt it wasn't safe to go to church, because how can you walk into church and feel worship and feel, any kind of connection with the Lord at all when you have somebody who is doing this? It's crazy. So we decided, after that one incident where he was yelling at us, to get out, to go outside and fight. And then just time after day, week after week, every time we went to church, Curtis would go looking for us in the church and try to get me to talk to him, and would say some sexual remarks. And then Paul was having to be catheterized because of his prostate problem. And so Diane's, my piano teacher's daughters, are both nurses, and I offered them, $30 for half-hour work to help with catheterize Paul. So that's how Curtis found out. And so we were at potluck. This was that day that blew into a big ordeal. I do decorating the tables, and I'd gotten up, and Larry had gotten up, and Curtis, I didn't notice, but Curtis went and sat down next to Paul. And he told Paul, man, you're a lucky, lucky man having those women bouncing in the bed and touching your wiener and all that stuff. Paul was so offended and upset. And he told Curtis to leave him alone, and Curtis wouldn't. And kept saying, wow, you're lucky having those two women in bed with you, just bouncing around. Wow, touching your wiener all the time. What a sick dog. So we decided, after that, we realized we couldn't go to church there to worship anymore. We told the pastor, you got to do something about this. Well, they wouldn't do anything until Curtis started. He changed his obsession to the pastor's wife. So he started creeping around their house. And only then was something done. But we were out of there by then. And we chose Estacada Church that has DS as the leader part-time. This was before COVID. So we thought, well, we can put up with her once in a while, or not be there when she's supposedly given the message. She dresses like a man. Her hair is shaved, and she even tried to kiss me on the lips one time. And she's constantly telling me how much she loves me. This creeps me out big time. I don't know what her motivation is, but it creeps me out. So, but I was laying in bed, and she was doing some laundry, and she brought some of the laundry into my bedroom, and she saw me laying there, and I was quite depressed, because every time I turn around, some man is being sexually inappropriate with me, and nobody defends me. No one. And she goes, and so I was crying, and I had thought of taking my life because I wanted the pain to be gone. I didn't want to commit suicide, but I felt like I wanted to die. And then, so DS walks in. She goes, oh, what's the matter? I says, oh, this thing with Curtis really has me upset. She goes, oh, here we go again. Here we go again. And she walks out of the room. Here we go again and again and again. This is a church leader, supposedly our pastor. Hell no. What a bitch. But I quit going to church because every time I went to church, she found a way to strike at me like a rattlesnake, constantly. And the same thing with my husband, constantly finding ways to belittle and shame him. And she did it one last time. One last time. My husband is a very kind gentleman. He is a godly man. He wouldn't say poop if he had a mouthful. He's not a snot. He really is a godly man. He lives and breathes his religion. He's not religious. He's godly. And he believes in letting things go. But it's hard for him to feel worship whenever DS comes to him and makes some kind of problems. At every board meeting, she makes problems. At every prayer meeting, she makes problems. So I won't attend any of them. So I quit going because I don't want her bullshit. And I know we're not supposed to say the word bullshit and bitch, but there's no other way to say it because she is a bitch. And my husband has oral cancer, and he had radiation treatments back in the early stages of his journey cancer. I'm on live, Larry. And he, would you bring me a Izzy's? Just a plain Izzy's. So it's embarrassing. He drools. My handsome silver fox, my husband, the man I met when I was 17, the man I love. It's embarrassing. He drools. So his mask gets wet. He has to wipe his mouth. He walked into the fellowship room. It's a huge room. That's where we eat, serve our fellowship meal. And people take their mask off when they're eating. And there was nobody in there. And Paul and Larry, Paul lives with us, had his mask on, and Larry had his mask in his hand, and he was getting ready to put it on when DS walked up to him and started shaming him and belittling him and dogging him because he wasn't wearing his mask. Now, mind you, there wasn't anybody else in the room. He was 50 feet away from her, and he was putting it on. So oh, thank you. There was no reason to do that. No reason. And my husband was vaccinated several weeks ago, back in January, because he's a first responder or part of the police. So she started belittling him, telling him, you need to wear your mask and it's regulation. He says, I've had my COVID shot. There's nobody in here and I'm putting my mask on. And she says, no excuses. You did wrong. And she said something about the movie Vacation, Chevy Chase. Ooh, thank you. Sour cream, yum. Like fat mama needs more fat. So she said something about the scene from the movie with Chevy Chase from Vacation, who'd driven off and forgotten that he'd tied up the dog to the car's bumper. And then the cop pulled him over and showed him the leash and started whining about. And Larry goes, what the heck is she talking about? This scene from the Chevy Chase movie, Vacation, with the dog tied up to the bumper. Does he think Larry's stupid or a dog, or is she the police, or what? He couldn't figure it out. It just didn't make sense. And she was in one of her nasty moods, and she had that evil look on her face, just like Bob used to have it, my biological sperm donor. Evil, nasty look on her face. And he didn't want to grapple with her. And then she went upstairs, and she was supposed to give the sermon. My husband was supposed to teach that Bible study. And he said, Paul, let's go. So my husband left, and he didn't fulfill his duty. He just left them hanging. And she gave the sermon, and then she talked about how we need to follow protocol. And she got on to another older woman who's sitting at the piano 50 feet away from anybody. She got all over her for not wearing a mask. But this woman has issues with wearing a mask. She can't breathe. And she has a shield, but she'd forgotten her shield. But anyway, she was 50 or 100 feet away from anybody playing the piano. And DS got all over her case. And this woman that plays the piano, Shirley, she's very sweet, very gifted, but she's never complained or argued with DS. But I think there's a problem now. And then she has been putting another person down constantly. Well, anyway, this room where Larry was putting on his mask, 3 hours later, nobody was wearing a mask, and they were all sitting around eating at the table, and that was okay. That's conference regulations. They can eat with their mask off. But in that same room, 3 hours earlier, Larry was breaking protocol by walking in there without his mask. It just doesn't make sense. So Larry said, I can't worship here. I can't sit here and worship God, knowing that she acted like that. And knowing how she's been again and again and again, constantly blowing up. And getting in her rotten mood and blaming others. And then next time she'll be all holy and nice, but she never apologizes. She only makes excuses, just like Bob, who was a psychopath and a sociopath. That's what a sociopath does. They don't have any empathy or feelings or for their doing wrong. They don't apologize. They can't. It's always blaming somebody else or pulling the Jesus God card. I just need to get right with Jesus and things will be okay. No, you need to quit being a damn bitch. So I knew she was going to come over our house after church. So I was furious. And so I wrote a letter. And I wrote, DS, you crossed way. Oh, she told Larry that he drew a line in the sand and that he had crossed it. What the heck? So I said, you crossed way over a line by what you did, ranting, belittling, and shaming Larry, who had his mask in his hand and was putting it on until you came at him with your ugly behavior. You likened him to Chevy Chase in the movie Vacation, who'd driven off for getting the dog he'd tied up to the bumper. Then the cop chased him down, holding the leash, the empty leash that was used to tie up the dog. What the heck? What the heck are you thinking? Larry is stupid? Or Larry's a dog and you are the cop? It was not the right thing to say to my dear husband. It just doesn't make sense. You have some serious issues with wanting to put him down, shame and belittle him, so you can look and feel superior to us. I know she is jealous. She has been, I used to watch her mother. I charged her $4 an hour. Her mother lived with us. She had dementia. And I charged her for 12 hours a day because I didn't charge her while her mom was asleep. $4 an hour. The going rate was $20 an hour. And sometimes she would tell me she didn't have the money to pay, or she'd hand me the check and hold on to it and pull it back, play a little game. And then she was saying I made too much money. She has a vendetta and a vengeance. And I know I proved it. She admitted it. You've had a long history of doing such, and it's why you can't keep a job. She cannot keep a job. She talks and brags about how she was this nursing supervisor and head of the department. Baloney. Maybe for a couple of years, but once her reputation got around, people got rid of her. I've known her to have 10 different jobs in the last 5 years. She was working as a nurse at the pain clinic that I went to. She only lasted 6 months there because she made trouble with her going off and having this crazed look. You can see that crazed look in her eyes. So I wrote this. You have a long history of doing such, and it's why you can't keep a job. What you did to me long ago was right after the ordeal with Curtis, who'd made a lot of sexual remarks, telling me Larry's cancer was from eating my God, DS. I was raped when I was 4 and 5 years old, was forced to perform oral sex on my 22-year-old uncle. Then raped again by a 45-year-old stranger when I was 14. He performed oral sex on me for 2 days, kept me drugged up, threatening to murder me. And a week later, he took a shotgun and he hid in the bushes and he took a shot at me when I was petting my deer. And my deer was there. He missed me by just a few inches and he shot my deer and he killed my deer. Did that right in front of me. I was so traumatized. And he told me he was going to kill me and my siblings if I told my parents. Well, my dad and his brother, Bob, and his brother, Chet, after I told my mom 2 weeks later, I had a nervous breakdown. They took me to the ER. I had welts all over I had a panic attack. I couldn't breathe. And I had huge hives all over my body. They gave me Librium. And guess what? My mom left me with Bob, took my sisters back to the Evans, and left me alone for 2 weeks. Nice, Mom. You're so caring. So Bob and Chet beat him to a pulp, knocked his teeth out, and just about killed him. But Richard wasn't about to go to the cops and complain what Bob and Chet did to them, because then he'd go to prison for raping me for 2 days. He kidnapped, drugged, and raped me. He kept me for 2 nights. I begged him to take me home, but he used Rohypnol, kept giving it to me. So when Curtis said this, it seriously caused me to suffer trauma, and I felt as if I've been raped by Curtis, the monster. It's something I've struggled with my entire life. The PTSD it's given me has destroyed me. My body has kept the score. There's a book about that. The reason I struggle pain and fibromyalgia is because I was sexually abused. It's PTSD. I said, you made things much worse when you were here. Supposed to be helping us. We paid you more than you're worth. You know that we paid extra. We even gave her $1,000 bonus. I was feeling overwhelmed and grieving, traumatized by what had happened at Hoodview Church. I was sad, and we had to leave Hoodview Church. We'd been on there for decades, but no one was willing to step in as promised to protect us from Curtis. He'd come to us demanding Larry go outside and fight like a man. I mean, the guy, he really is mentally deranged. I mean, I don't want to say retarded, but he is severely mentally deranged. He yells out during sermon. He'll say, let's end it. We're hungry. Time to eat potluck. Let's pray. Everybody pray. Let's leave. It says inappropriate stuff during church with his outbursts. So you see and he'd go, okay, cut it short. Come on. That's enough. In a congregation of 400 people. And then telling Larry to go outside and fight like a man. I mean, the guy is disabled. He can't even hardly walk. And if Larry took him outside, Curtis would have been pushed on his butt. And then my husband would have gone to jail. I was very upset for all that had happened, feeling vulnerable, uncared about, and having to leave Hoodview so Curtis could leave us alone. I was crying about it, was depressed, and wanting my life to be over. You came into my bedroom, saw that I was crying, and asked me, oh, what's the matter? What's wrong? I said, oh, this deal with Curtis really has me upset. It's so messed up. I needed someone, a leader from my church, which she's supposedly a leader, an elder. Butch. She looks like a butch with her hair cut short. She has it shaved on one side and wears jeans, dresses like a hobo Oh, and here's another time. When we had my husband put together a FM radio, and we broadcasted the sermon from inside the church, and everybody showed up in their cars. So it was broadcast over the car radios so we could attend church in our own cars, and nobody was to get out and congregate, and if we did, we had to wear masks and use those wipies. Anyway, I had made some special wipies with a thing of diaper wipes, and I poured a cup of alcohol and a 4th or 8th cup of disinfectant from Melaleuca, which is really good. It's kind of an overkill, but anyway, I squished it into these wipes so you can get an individual wipe and wipe your hands, and that was totally sanitary. And so other people had done that, and so I gave some to Greg, and he had it. Greg is kind of a deacon, and he goes around, takes the mic around to other people to talk or hold it. And Greg had those wipies. Anyway, the pastor had given the prayer, and then Greg was talking about some announcements. I wish I had this on video. Anyway, DS walked up to him, and she had a package of store-bought sanitizing wipes that she thought was better than the ones. And she grabbed his and slammed hers down right in front of 25 people. And then she held the homemade one up to another one of her friends, and they were going. The friend in the car went, yeah, they collaborated to put Craig down in front of everybody. This is how DS operates all the time. She is a mean bitch. There is no other word to describe it. She is mean and nasty. So and she's constantly belittling Greg, constantly. And one time she wanted everybody to read Bible verses. And Greg's wife, Glenda, is very shy. She's not stupid. She's a very educated, college-educated woman. She's a hairdresser for 36 years. She has her own business. She fixes the most delicious looking plates of food. The food, I think she needs to have her own channel about plating food and making it look appealing. She is gifted, but she's shy. She doesn't confront anybody. Even though when they're wrong, she doesn't confront them. She just backs off. Well, DS wanted her to read scripture in front of everybody in the church. And she says, no, I don't want to. And she says, well, you need to. You don't force anybody to read scripture. You just ask, would you like to read, Glenda? Oh, no, thank you. Then you go on to the next one. Would you like to? You don't push somebody. So then, after they had gone around, she says, well, we're going to get Glenda to read the next one. And Glenda said, no. Yeah, you need to read it, Glenda. Like, well, can't you read? What's the matter with you? Glenda was so offended. And DS knew she had crossed the line. Did she ever apologize? No. But she makes excuses. So I was feeling very uncared for. And for her to say, here we go again, here we go again. And she left the room. I said, you left the room shaking your head. That was the most cruel and evil response. And coming from a supposed church leader makes it especially wrong. DS, you've got some major screws loose, and you're going off on Larry this morning proves that you're not being guided by anything holy. Satan is leading and guiding you. That is why the esticated church is failing like it is. You just can't hold your tongue. And it's your favorite sin. It really is her favorite sin. It's a sin that she hangs on to and wants to do because she has the need to hurt and put others down to make herself feel big. And I continued writing. Larry gave up being church treasurer because you insisted on micromanaging him at every chance you had. He couldn't deal with your craziness as you did not know. You don't know what you were doing. But I'm sure that you've done this. I'm sure you've not done the same with the new treasurer, Joyce, because you know by doing so will get you in trouble because her husband is a high-end conference man. Is that why you asked her in front of me if she wanted to be a church elder? Because I'd ask her if I could be part of the church Dorcas. She wouldn't let me. But she made sure she asked Joyce, who'd only been there 3 times, if she wanted to be a church elder. You don't ask those kind of things in front of anybody. That's a private, very private thing to ask somebody to partake as in a position of leadership or part of the church. That is to be done in private, because what if she said no? Maybe she didn't want to. Maybe she didn't feel, maybe she has some problems. Because when you take church leadership, you have to have a pure heart and a stellar record. You can't be a drunk and a liar and go around calling people a bitch. You have to have a good, clean record. And then asking somebody in front of somebody is a big no-no. And she's never been dedicated, and neither has DS. And I went on. Is that why you asked Jay in front of me if she wanted to be a church leader? Was clearly your way of taking a dig to hurt me, because I wouldn't hire you to clean our home. She was always, every time I turn around, well, if you could get rid of the other person, and I kept it private. I never told anybody that Lisa was cleaning our house. I needed help. Lisa did a wonderful job. She doesn't ever come at me with these snide remarks. I don't have to worry about Lisa coming off and barking at me like Dora Sue did. constantly dogging me. When I told her, I don't use any, I have 2 sets of brand new washing machines, one in the garage, one in our house. And I don't use fabric softener in all the loads of laundry. And I told her, I only use it on the shirts, t-shirts and shirts, nothing else, nothing else. I told her time and time again. Well, she told me, well, your thing is empty. A brand new one of that huge containers from Costco of fabric softener was empty. I said, well, I just bought that a month ago. She says, yeah, but it's all gone. I use it in every, you want it in every, I don't know why you want it in every load. And I says, no, I said only the t-shirts and the shirts. Well, you're going to have to write it down. You have so many rules. You just confuse everybody. Nobody can keep up with what you want. You want it this way, want it that way. You need to write it down. I mean, my God, you're such an idiot. Such a stupid idiot. You can't remember it. So she blamed it on me. So she didn't apologize. Oh, I'm sorry. I did it wrong. And then she was constantly, Paul wears shorty shorts. My husband's shorts have legs. She was always bringing Paul's shorty shorts in here and put Larry's long legs. And I'd say, these go here and this go there. Well, you need to write it down. Your rules change every time I turn around. No, the rules don't change. Stupid. And then the reason I didn't hire is because you were always trying to find a way to dig at me or hurt me. Remember your rant when you broke the Christmas cat figurine? Instead of taking ownership and you're breaking it, you went off on me, telling me I have too many expensive items around the house. Wow, that is what a psychopath or sociopath says. Larry and I will not be coming back to Esticated Church because we never want you to give you another chance to hurt us. You've done so time and time again. But when we tried letting it go, and we tried letting it go, but this time you have crossed a line and there is no returning or recovering from what you did. We will be taking this to the conference leaders and demand you step down immediately or face legal action. I'm going to go to the conference with this. I'm going to take legal action because she is just constantly digging and belittling. And what happened to me at Hoodview with that man, and they're not protecting me, was wrong. I says, there's plenty of stuff you've done to hurt us and numerous others with your evil, nasty behavior. I will say this, DS, you are a very mean and nasty bitch. I know that's not the words coming from a Christian woman, but you know what? She is a mean and nasty bitch. Well, she showed up here just as I thought she would at 12:23, right after she stepped down in the pulpit. She showed up, and she got out and she barreled her way down our driveway, looking like a man, dressed like a man, walked like a man. It was crazy. And she came up to our front door, and Larry goes, she's here. I said, don't open the door. I will deal with it. And so I opened the door. And I says, you are not welcome here. You have been a mean and nasty bitch, and you crossed a line. I says, I have a letter for you. And you have done wrong. Let me see if I can find it. Anyway, it's that one that I said that she crossed the line. You read it Anyway, I promised to read this letter that I had said to her. But yeah, you can see where she barrels up, looking like a man. She scares me. Anyway, other people have left the church because of her. And then we realized, we talked to some couple of people came over from the church after they knew what had happened, and they're sick of this. They're absolutely sick of this because they're down to 5 people. With us gone, there were 8, but that's 3 of us gone. And there's nobody else that is carrying the weight or that can carry the financial burden like we do. I know that shouldn't be a factor, but I don't want to say this, but I will. If we leave there, they're going to close, because where's the money going to come from? They won't be able to keep their doors open without our financial help. We bailed them out of a deep, deep financial hole 2 years ago, and we've struggled and struggled with her constantly telling me this, telling me that, doing this. I did this wrong. I stood that way. I did this. I did. And then telling me, I love you. Calling me all the time. I love you. Do you love me? No, I don't love you. Good night. And then her trying to kiss me, or she tried to kiss me on the lips. She caught me off guard. She wanted to hug me goodbye, and she kissed me right on the lips. And I thought, oh my God, oh my God. I don't know what that was about, but that has just really scared me. I don't know what she meant by that, but that was unnerving. You don't kiss another woman on the lips. I don't kiss any other man on the lips, let alone another woman kiss me on the lips. Oh, that was totally inappropriate. And then every time she calls, I love you. I really love you. Fishing, hoping I'd say, I love you too. Nope. She scares me. She really does. I'm afraid she's going to come here with her gun. But you know what? I'm ready. We got security cameras all over this place. I think we're going to put a tracer on her car. So if she comes close to our house, we'll know that she's in the area. But, we gave her some furniture. Gave her a dining room set. And she needed to load it in the back. She borrowed our trailer to haul it. And she backed up, and then he's had 2 back surgeries, so he's got back pain. So he was helping to load it, and she says, hold on. And Larry didn't hear her. It's windy outside. It was out in the elements, and it was hard of hearing. And she says, I said, hold on. Can't you hear me? I said, hold on. Oh, you about knocked me over. Oh, and she got in her car and she put it in drive. Now, we had given her a full tank of gas because we keep gas here. People need money and gas, and we gave her money and gave her gas. Did this, that for her, and we just filled up her gas tank. Anyway, she peeled out. She was so mad. And she had that angry look, that crazy look on her face again. And as she's loading it, here we gave it to her instead of selling it to her. No good deed goes unpunished. Anyway, she peeled out of here, just about ran over the man next door in his wheelchair. That's not true. I couldn't believe how she did that. just in an angry rage because my husband didn't hear her. She didn't fall. She didn't hurt herself. Anyway, so I don't know what's going to happen. My husband, she wrote a letter trying to excuse it. Well, God, God, you need to forgive, and God will work on, if you don't forgive, then you can't go to heaven. Not saying, I know I was a bitch. I need to change. Nope. She put it back on him. So Larry wrote her back. We will not be going. You won't see us there anymore. Because I can't worship in a place where I'm being yelled at, belittled, put down. So, forgiveness, this is from Mayo Clinic Adult Health. Forgiveness, letting go of grudges and bitterness. When someone you care about hurts you, no, we don't care about her. You can hold on to anger, resentment, thoughts of revenge, or embrace forgiveness and move forward. Who hasn't been hurt by the actions or the words of another? Perhaps a parent constantly criticized you growing up, a colleague sabotaged a project, or your partner had an affair, or maybe you've had a traumatic experience, such as being physically or emotionally abused by someone close to you. And this is true, physically and emotionally abused. These wounds can leave you with lasting feelings of anger and bitterness, even vengeance. But if you don't practice forgiveness, you might be the one who pays most dearly. By embracing forgiveness, you can also embrace peace, hope, gratitude, and joy. Consider how forgiveness can lead you down the path of physical, emotional, spiritual well-being. What is forgiveness? I think it's Sandy Rusek, the Ruscheks, whose entire family was murdered, annihilated by their son-in-law, their daughter, pregnant daughter with baby boy, Nico. She was 3 months pregnant. And then her 2 little girls were all murdered by Chris Watts. And his mother, Cindy Watts, hates Shanann, and she blames her and calls her horrible names and thinks that she's just a rotten person, that she deserved being murdered. Well, what about the 2 children and the baby? Did they deserve to be murdered? I think Cindy Watts believes so. But she's struggling. She's so angry and full of rage. You wait and see. Something bad's going to happen to her. Karma's going to be a bitch, Cindy Watts. Well, Sandra Rusek has a cooking channel. She's finding healthy ways to move on. She's not hanging on to bitterness, anger, and rage. I'm sure it cycles back and forth. And at times she feels the anger and rage, but then she finds healthy ways to deal with it. And she's the healthy person. Well, Cindy and Ronnie and her daughter Jamie, who I think provided the OxyContin. I'd like her to go to prison if she did. Time will tell. What are the benefits of forgiving someone? Letting go of grudges and bitterness can make way for improved health and peace of mind. Forgiveness can lead to healthier relationships, improved mental health, less anxiety, stress and hostility, lower blood pressure, fewer symptoms of depression, a stronger immune system, improved heart health, improved self-esteem. Why is it so easy to hold a grudge? Being hurt by somebody, particularly someone you love and trust, can cause anger, sadness, and confusion. If you dwell on hurtful events or situations, grudges filled with resentment, vengeance, and hostility can take root. If you allow negative feelings to crowd out positive feelings, you might find yourself swallowed up by your own bitterness and sense of injustice. Some people are naturally more forgiving than others, but even if you're a grudge holder, almost anyone can learn to be more forgiving. What are the effects of holding a grudge? If you're unforgiving, you might bring anger and bitterness into your every relationship and new experience. You become so wrapped up in the wrong that you can't enjoy the present. Cindy Watts, you can't enjoy anything because you're so damn wrapped up in being angry and saying you love your son no matter what he did. My God, he murdered your grandchildren and his wife. What a monster you have. The fruit of your loins is spoiled fruit. He's a monster. And you're a bigger monster because your hatred set this all in motion. I blame Cindy. You have blood on your hands just as much as your evil monster child. And Ronnie, I hope you take back to drinking and drugging because that's the only way you're going to get by this life. Staying with a bitch like that. You wait and see. Ronnie's going to go back to drinking if he doesn't drop dead of a heart attack, which I think he will because he's got the body type and some other indication and diabetes and history of drinking and cocaine use. It brings anger and bitterness into every relationship and new experience. You become so wrapped up in the wrong that you can't enjoy the present. You become depressed and anxious, and you feel that your life lacks meaning or purpose, or that you're at all odds with your spiritual beliefs. Ronnie laughs about how he was baptized. He should have left his mouth open and got some of that baptismal water in his mouth because he still has hatred for Shanann. He needed an IV of all that. He needed an infusion of that baptismal water to clean out his heart because he still has hatred and still blames. How do I reach a state of forgiveness? Forgiveness is a commitment to a personalized process of change. To move from suffering to forgiveness, you might recognize the value of forgiveness and how to improve your life. Identify the needs healing and who needs to be forgiven and for what. Consider joining a support group or see a counselor. Acknowledge your emotions about the harm done to you and how they affect your behavior and work to release them. Choose to forgive the person who's offended you. Move away from your role as victim and release the control and power the offending person and situation have had on your life. As you let go of grudges, you no longer define your life by how you've been hurt. You might even find compassion and understanding. I don't have compassion. What happens if you can't forgive? Forgiveness can be challenging, especially if the person who's hurt you doesn't admit wrong. She will never admit. And if you find yourself stuck, practice empathy. She does not have empathy. She is a sociopath and they don't have feelings. I know that my father, Bob, biosperm donor, was a sociopath and a psychopath. He never said he was sorry. He didn't have feelings for anybody that he hurt. He hated women. He even hated his own mother. Reflect on the times you've hurt others and those who've forgiven you. Write a journal, pray, or use guided meditation, or talk with a person you've found to be wise and compassionate, such as a spiritual leader, a mental health provider, or an impartial loved one, or a friend. Be aware that forgiveness is a process, and even small hurts may need to be revisited and forgiven over and over. Does forgiveness guarantee reconciliation? If the hurtful event involves someone whose relationship you otherwise value, forgiveness can lead to reconciliation. This isn't always the case, however. Reconciliation might be impossible if the offender has died or is unwilling to communicate with you. She's not owning what she did. She has been told again. Her whole life she's been told what she does is hurtful, that she's hurt. She can't see it. She gets fired from every job, and she's told why. It's because you're a bitch. You're mean. You belittle people. You climb on people's cases. That isn't a leader. That is a monster. And getting another person to change his or her actions, behavior, or words isn't the point of forgiveness. Think of forgiveness more about how it can change your life by bringing you peace, happiness, and emotional and spiritual healing. Forgiveness can take away the power the other person continues to wield in your life. So, forgiveness doesn't mean that we need to be all singy-songy sweet friends with this person. And forgiveness may mean doing self-care, caring for ourselves, doing what it takes to find ways that we can have inner peace, ways that we can heal, ways that we can not be hurt again. And by doing that, you may need to step away from the situation. And we are going to leave Estacada. I know they may fold financially because we're not going to provide support, financial support. We will send our money to Remnant Publications, who will, for $4, they will provide Bibles for 20 people. So, thank you for listening to me. And forgiving doesn't mean that we need to be BFFs. We need to move away and take care of ourselves so we can't be hurt again and again. Thank you for joining my live stream. Check out Sandy Rusick's cooking channel. It's awesome. She's fun. Oh, I know she misses her grandbabies and her daughter. She'll see them again.